So we're going to be going through my round 24 AFL tips and predictions, the final round of the 2025 AFL home and away season, which also means it is going to be the final round where I'll be doing the big call punishments. I'll still do big calls for the fun of it, but I'm going to be stopping the punishments after the home and away season. So during the finals, they're not going to count. I still have a plethora of big call punishments to do by the end of October. There are 10 games this round because of the Cyclone rearrangement. I don't think it's ever happened before. We've seen 10 games in a round of footy where a side, well, a couple of sides have played multiple games in a round. But that's just how bizarre this round is. It's how bizarre this whole season's been. So let's review round 23 and oh shit. Oh no. What have I done here? Greys galore. I think I've forgotten to actually submit my tips. For some reason, I thought I definitely did, so I didn't check through my tips all week. Normally, I find out after the first or second game, I've gotten a 0 in my footy tipping comp. So first game, let's go through it real quick. Essendon v St Kilda. I tipped the Saints, I think, by 4 or 5 goals in my video. They only won by 2. It wasn't a very convincing win. I'm just happy we got over the line because people missed my last video, my Essendon Saints vlog. I said in that if we lost, I would have had to do a live stream kicking more goals than Matthew Lloyd wearing full Essendon gear at the hangar. So I guess it's good that I didn't have to do that, but it was disappointing that we didn't win by more. Essendon were pretty good. Freo Brisbane, everyone thought this was going to be the far better game. It turned out to be quite disappointing, especially for Fremantle. Brisbane smashed them from really the start of the game, but they just tore it up hard in the second half as well. Saturday, we saw a pretty big upset. Well, I wouldn't really call it a massive upset. The Giants have always got the better of the Suns as of recent. Carlton, Port Adelaide, I thought this would be closer. Port Adelaide just suck away. Carlton got a good win by 54 points to get a little bit of a good, sort of positive run on to finish off the season. Hawthorn played Melbourne, and I expected Melbourne to be a bit more competitive, but Hawthorn were just far too strong. Jack Gunson kicked 7 goals. He was the best player on the field. And then the Adelaide v Collingwood game lived up to the hype. What a game. Watch this game on stream. The Crows sort of fought back after being down in the first quarter and won it by 3 points in a really wet weather game. On Sunday, we saw North Melbourne play Richmond. This was a bizarre game of footy in Ninja Stadium. North Melbourne scored 135, and it was the Cats that cement pretty much now a top 2 spot, with the Bulldogs smashing the Eagles by 94 points. So I tipped Richmond, so I would have got 1 wrong. I tipped Fremantle, I would have got 2 wrong, and I tipped Gold Coast. So that would have been a 6 out of 9. But oh well, it says nothing, so who gives a crap when it comes to my competition in tipping? Let's actually take a look at it. So, yeah, 0. That's what I got, because if you don't tip, you don't score. The best scorers for round 23 were the people with their jokers. I said I was going to use my joker last week. I'm going to have to now save it for round 24, which is sort of smart. 10 games. So Clancy Hyde, best scorer last week. He got 16-1. Ryan got a 16 margin at 8. Abby as well. J Macca and CJ, all with a score of 16. Total scores, we had Shivo in the lead with the 1 point advantage, 171, a really good margin. Harry 09, PJRM, Doss, and Vinny Pham. This is what the prizes are for the tipping comp if you're not in it yet. First prize is $400. Second prize $150, third prize $75, fourth prize $50, and fifth place $30. Big prize to be won, and we haven't got many rounds to go. I am including finals though in my tipping comp, so just to be aware of that. And I will just quickly give a shout out to all those that got a perfect score if we exclude the Joker. Hamish 777, Bloods for Life, Pussy Lover, great name there. Boston for the win, Jay, Cooper Lee, Harrison DP, Zachy D, Sean Pham, Pie Boy, Panthers fan, and Banana Tea Boy. Holy shit. Holy fuck. Literally mid-video, I checked the notification to see that Naz is staying at the Saints, so I'm still buzzing. I can't believe it. So last week, the big calls, we'll go through every single game individually. It is the final week, or the second last week for big calls. First up, we've got Essendon St Kilda. I said that the both sides were combined for under 145. It was a close one to get right, but they just combined for 152. That last quarter probably cost me. I said that Freo would come back and win after trailing at 3/4 time. They lost by 57 points. Next up, I said that Noah Anderson will record 35 more disposals. He recorded 32. Very close with that one. I then said that there'll be 5 or more behinds than goals combined into the Port Adelaide v Carlton game. It was an accurate one. There were 7 or more goals combined. Hawthorn v Melbourne. I said that the Hawks wouldn't be up by 10 or more points at 3/4 time. They were up by 43. And then I said in Adelaide Collingwood that the Pies would have a goalless quarter, and they did in that second. So we got the one correct big call. As we move through the next 3 games, I said that in North Richmond, there'll be 9 or more lead changers. We only got the 3. In Sydney v Geelong, I said both sides would score over 95, and they only had 1. Sydney scored 66. So another failed week of big calls. Darcy Norton didn't kick 11 goals combined for my last game. Big call. They got 6. We all know what that means. We look at the punishments for last week, and we had Grookie with 98. That was the most likes. He said dance to Snoop Dogg, drop it like it's hot in public.
Crib, ma, drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
But I like Zay's even more. He had only 84. Stayed at a 1-star hotel for 24 hours. And he must give him a positive review. That's content that I want to do this off season, where I can do a few streams, videos, where I like go to like the worst rated restaurants, you know, hotels, go on like a random trip to a random country town for like 24 hours and like live stream it. I want to do that, and I almost want to do Zay's one more, but Grookey's got the most likes. Let me know down below if that's something you'd be interested in for the off season. But yeah, fuck's sake, Grookey, stop giving me these stupid punishments. Not long to go on the season now, which means the Cardi medal is not long away. I've been sort of advertising this every week in my tips. In 2 weeks, I'll be doing it, which means we want to have 2 big rounds of voting. Let's get over 100 every week now from now in round 24. So vote it down below. Link is in the description. Cardi medal is only 2 weeks away. And let's get a lot of votes. So because it's the final round, I'm going to be doing this on Squiggle so we can see the ladder change in real time. This has obviously been recorded a little bit later on the Wednesday because I was really sick on Tuesday. So I do apologize. I don't like getting videos out a little bit later, but doesn't matter. We're here for the tips. First up, we have on Thursday night, Essendon take on Carlton. It's good to get these sort of irrelevant games over and done with. People need to realize that this has to be on Thursday to fit in the rescheduled Wednesday game. And these two sides obviously aren't competing in final, so it's a bit of a dead rubber. Can I see a world where the Bombers maybe upset them? They haven't gotten a win in 11 games. I felt like they were quite unlucky not to get a result last week. They played really well. It just keeps getting worse for their injuries. Unfortunately, it looks like McMahon might be out this week, and he kicked 3 goals. He's been in some really good form, but they might be returning Zach Merritt in this one ahead of his 250th, which honestly gives me a little bit of a slight chance that the Bombers might win this game to finish the season on a high. But Carlton also had a really good win last week against Port Adelaide in a game where it meant nothing as well. Sort of two sides in a similar position. Mackay kicked 7 goals and had 15 score involvements, and Walsh back into the lineup looked really good. Well, I think this could be a chance of an upset. Essendon have been competitive over the last few weeks against Geelong and Sydney and the Saints, but the Blues I just think have a little bit more in the tank, and I think they'll be the better side overall, and I reckon they should win by more than 20 points. I'll go 22 points. My big call in this game, I feel like there'll be 6 or more behinds combined than goals. All right, we head to the Friday game. We start with Collingwood v Melbourne. We got 2 as part of a Friday night doubleheader. I feel like this game now looks a lot more intriguing than maybe it would have looked like 4 or 5 weeks ago, with Collingwood certainly not cementing any spot in the top 4, let alone top 2 or anything like that. They've been crashing down as of late, and they really need to win this game for top 4, as you can see right there. It's all about percentage as well, so they'd want to win by a little bit of a margin. Now, you guys, if you've been following along with my tipping in the last 5 weeks, you would have seen that one of my punishments was I wasn't allowed to tip Collingwood for the rest of the year. That's helped me massively, but for this, I'm going to just explain what I think is going to happen, and then I'll be tipping against Collingwood at the end on ESPN. The Pies had a pretty good effort last week against the Crows in a game where they recorded 71 inside 50s. They just couldn't put it on the scoreboard, and it was one of the worst conversions per inside 50 for goal you'll ever see. Poor conditions, but Adelaide's defence got a hold of them, and unfortunately they just couldn't get the win. Their first loss against Adelaide since 2016 and at the Adelaide Oval in 10 games. But ultimately, they have lost their last 5 games against top 8 sides, and it looks like despite a result here against the D's, they're not much of a chance at really competing and threatening for the premiership. They're definitely going to want to win this game and by a decent amount. But Melbourne have been alright against the Pies. They almost beat them on a King's birthday fixture early in the year when the Pies were at their best. Disappointing game last week against Hawthorn after a really solid game against the Dogs. They're still under that interim coach, so they might still have a bit of a sugar hit, maybe put up a bit of an effort for this game. I think they're going to want to stand up, the D's, but personally, I can't see the Pies dropping a game like this with it being so important, and it is a game against the side outside of the top 8. Jeremy Howe returning to the team ultimately is going to sort of lead my opinion more towards the Pies here, and I know I have to tip Melbourne and ESPN, but we want to make this realistic. I think that Pies are going to win, so for the ladder's sake, we're going to tip Collingwood by 20 points with my big call. I reckon Jake Melksham kicks 4 or more goals. Also on the Friday night at 8:10 p.m, Port Adelaide take on Gold Coast, and I'd say this is definitely a danger game for the Suns, especially after last week's poor performance against the Giants. Once again, their inability to beat the Giants cost them, and it was a huge test failed at home. The Giants were just a lot better, and it just goes to show the Suns, if they make the finals, which they should, probably won't be much of a threat if they can't be getting those wins, and they're not even really feeling like they were in the game for most of it. The reason why I think this is a danger game for the Suns, they've never won at the Adelaide Oval. It's also the last game under Ken Hinkley and Travis Boak for Port Adelaide. So I feel like if they're going to want to stand up for any game, it would be that. And I don't have heaps of faith in Gold Coast in games like these. They have been a bit better away this year, but I still don't have massive faith. They should win this. They win this game, they're a chance still for top 4. This is for a top 4 spot. I think Port Adelaide are going to want to show up one more time for Ken to finish off his campaign as a coach. As bad as they were last week against Carlton, I think they're going to respond. Travis Boak's last game. It is unfortunate Ollie Wines won't be playing due to that suspension, which I think's stupid. Yeah, I'm going to tip the upset here. I'm going to back it in because I feel like it could happen. I did back the upset in a couple of weeks ago against Freo when they almost won, and I think it could happen again here. So we're going to be tipping the Power to win this game by 8 points. My big call will be that the Power win at the final quarter by 15 or more points. Alright, well now we take a look at the ladder and the Suns are still out of the 8. They've got to win that last game now for finals. It's a big game if that happens. We head to the games on Saturday. We have 3. All of them are really meaningless when you think about it. Like, I don't think it's going to impact the course of the 8 at all. North play Adelaide here, and obviously Adelaide just need to get the win to cement the minor premiership. They're going to be top 2 anyways. Last week got the win over Collingwood. Huge win, conceded 71 inside 50s, but their defence held strong and managed to find the victory in the wet. Bit of a controversial win, but you know the amount of times that the Crows have been on the other end of poor controversies, I think it is fair that they get the win here. Obviously, the whole news surrounding the Crows at the moment is Isaac Rankin and his 5-match suspension for that homophobic slur. So that is going to maybe put them back a bit, set them back. I don't think it's going to make much of an impact in terms of them winning this game, but just for the whole premiership tilt, that's a really big blow. And just internally in the club, how is that going to change their mindset? So maybe North Melbourne could take a little bit from that and go, you know what, maybe we can actually get up in a game like this. They were really good last week against the Tigers. Obviously, it was the Tigers, but their midfield dominated. LDU with 40. Cherry had a huge game. Obviously, Harry Sheasel equaling the amount of disposals, the most amount in 54. He kicked 2 goals as well. He was everywhere. And that could be a bit of a sign for the future. Just, you know, those promising signs heading into 2026. It'd be the first time since before 2020 where they have escaped the bottom 2. Zerha will be out. They don't have Larky. They've got a few outs here in North Melbourne. Adelaide obviously with that Rankin, but to me, I don't see them losing a game like this. I think they'll definitely feast on North Melbourne's lack of defence, the Crows forwards. But I think it could be a bit of a shootout, as well as Adelaide's defence has been so far this year. I think North might put up a decent total under the roof, but ultimately, I am going to be tipping the Crows to win this game by probably 8 goals. We'll go 46 points. My big call, they'll have 11 or more individual goal kickers, the Crows. Also on the Saturday twilight, we have Richmond and Geelong at the MCG. Now, assuming Adelaide do win, this is basically just to cement a top 2 spot. Because technically this could have been for first spot, let's say if Adelaide lose. But let's be honest with you, this is a pretty easy tip. The Cats have been in some really good form. Finally had a little bit more of a difficult test last week against Sydney, and they passed that really, really well. They did it all without Jezza really having much of a say. He didn't kick a single goal in his quest for 100 goals. And it was all the other forwards, for example, Shannon Neal, Sean Manor, Brian Myers, Tyson Stengel returning in a bit of form. And Tom Stewart, the Cats would love him to be back in really good form, and he had a really good game, not to mention Holmes and Smith. So the Cats just had all their plays performing really strongly on the weekend against the Swans after conceding the first 3 goals, and they're looking primed to finish top 2 and primed for another chance at the flag. I think they're probably now flag favourites after the whole ranking controversy if they can cement a top 2 spot here. Richmond, last game of the year, they've had an alright year, 5 wins. I think it's exceeded everyone's expectations, but no one's expecting the Tigers to come close in a game like this. I know it's at the MCG, and the Tigers who play their best footy there, but I feel like every week Richmond just let whoever they want off the chain. I think Naz a few weeks ago had a really big game, and now Harry Sheasel, in fact, a lot of North Melbourne's midfielders. It was disappointing. They scored a bit, but I don't really see much changing here in this game. I think the Cats are going to get a big win to lock in a top 2 spot. Too much is on the line here. Hopefully, Jezza maybe comes back and kicks a few goals with Neil being out, but I think that quest for 100 might be gone, and maybe it's better that they're not focusing on that heading into finals. I'm saying the Cats by 58 points. My big call, Smith and Holmes combined for 66 or more touches. Final game on the Saturday, we have West Coast and Sydney. The most irrelevant game of the day, I would have thought. And if you take a look at the ladder positions, both sides can't even move up or down. It's a bit of a nothing game, but a chance here for West Coast maybe to finish off the season on a high. Could they get their second win? Some people are predicting it could happen against Sydney. I know Sydney have been sort of hit or miss, but they've had a definitely improved back end of the season, you know, with Gordon returning. Heaney's been in some good form. He started the game off well against the Cats, but really since the first quarter, there wasn't really much to be praising for the Swans. It was a pretty disappointing game. It just goes to show they've got a lot of work to do heading into 2026 as they got completely dismantled by the Cats after quarter time. West Coast last week had that game against the Dogs and lost it by 94 points. This is a chance for them to bounce back and maybe put on another strong performance like they did against Adelaide. We've seen it in a few games this year at home, like they beat the Saints. Can something like that occur? I think yes. I think in the last game of 2025, we might get a really spirited West Coast finish to the year. Maybe a good, strong first half, but the wheels will fall off in the second half. They're not going to go with the Swans for 4 quarters, and Sydney, they're not the sort of side that wants to just completely just give up end of season. Yeah, they can't make finals, but I think they're going to get a big second half. They'll dominate late, and it'll be a pretty big win for the Swans overall. So I'm going to say the Swans by 34 points with my big call. The West Coast lead the game at halftime. Alright, we head to the games on Sunday. This is the Super Sunday. I'll be streaming all 3 games for those wondering, and we start things off early at 12:20 at NG Stadium with GWS and St Kilda. Probably the least important of the 3 games, you would have to say. It is a St Kilda game, and I've been barely able to stream Saints games this season. But the Giants, in theory, could still be playing for a top 4 spot. Even if the Pies do win over Melbourne, I'm pretty sure they would have to rely on a draw between Brisbane and Hawthorn. But if the Pies somehow do lose, or if the Suns drop a game, the Giants are a slight chance for the 4. But you think this is more for playing for a home final, which would be the case. Unless they get smashed by 80 points, they're not dropping out. Now, GWS have found form again after that terrible display against the Bulldogs. Responded with that big win over North Melbourne, and an even better win against the Suns away from home when the Suns were playing for so much themselves. And the fact that the Giants had a few outs in that game as well. Really solid performance from the Giants, and it just goes to show that their best is just about as good as anyone's best. They just haven't been able to put it together consistently enough, and you don't know the Giants week in week. You'd think most of the time they'd be alright, and then they have a really bad performance, and you go, geez, are they even going to contend for the 8? Against St Kilda, you'd expect them to win that. The Saints have been off the back of 4 wins in a row, albeit against bottom sides, and all of them being single-figure margins. However, there'll be a bit of rejuvenated spirit with the Saints after Nasai Wagner-Miller re-signed with the club. You'd think the players would be up and about for this game. There'll be a bit more morale at the club now that they sort of know what's going on, and maybe Naz plays with less stress, a bit of less weight on the shoulder after telling everyone that he's staying with the Saints. I just don't really think it's going to happen. The Giants have too much to play for. The Saints with 4 wins in a row have been known to sort of spoil other sides' parties to finish off seasons like we saw with Carlton last year, but to go against the Giants at NG Stadium, it's something that I can't really see the Saints doing. I'm going to be saying that the Giants do get this win, but I don't think it's going to be by much. I think the Saints will throw everything at them, and there'll be a decent game, but I'm going to say the Giants by go 18 points. My big call, I think that we're going to start off poorly, and the Giants will win the first quarter by 20 or more points. Next up, we have one of the biggest games of the round, the Bulldogs and Fremantle. You could make the argument this is an early elimination final. It's one of those games where you win, you're in, you lose, and you're gone. The Dockers are really disappointing on the weekend against Brisbane. They had a huge opportunity to lock in a final spot and maybe even go and try to make it into the top 4. And like they have in previous years, they fucked it up, and not just fucked it up, they fucked it up badly. They didn't seem like they were ever in the game, and the Lions just completely tore them a new one, especially after half-time. That just goes to show lack of maturity, and maybe those wins, that win streak that the Dockers had, were papering over a few cracks, because I guess in a lot of those wins for the Dockers, they sort of just escaped. They were down at 3/4 time, they got over, but finally they came up against a real proper test, and they completely failed it. I was at home as well in Nat Fyfe's last game at Optus Stadium, so this is just one of those games where they have to win. They'll have to throw everything at the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are strong favourites in this one because their form at Marvel has been great. I think they've won 12 of their last 14 there. They're in some great form. They've got the 3rd highest percentage of the comp, and because of that high percentage, they're just got to win this game to make the 8. And I just feel like the Bulldogs, with how strong they are at home, I just think they'll have too much firepower for the Dockers to handle. You tag Sarong in this game, and the Dockers' chance of winning this game are just about done. It's a huge game for both clubs. The Dockers have rarely been able to stand up in these do-or-die games to make finals. We've seen in recent memory. And also the Dockers at Marvel Stadium, they haven't been the best side, playing, I think, St Kilda early in the year and getting smashed. And we've seen a few games over the last few years against the Dogs where they haven't been getting the results. So I'm going to have to say the Dogs. I just think it's the safer pick, and I just think there's more of a chance it's the case. I hope this is a close game. I hope to God this goes down to the wire, but I just feel like it's going to be another one of those games where it isn't the case and the Dogs get a bit of control and win it by 21 to guarantee a top 8 spot. They moved to 6th, but I doubt they stay in that 6th position. Big call in the first half. I think there'll be 5 more lead changes. Next up, we have the final game on Sunday night. Brisbane Hawthorn at the Gabba. It's perfect to have this game as the last game. Well, not of the round, but of the week, because this is a game that the winner just about makes top 4. Look at the 2 spots where both sides are at. So Brisbane 5th, they win this, they go to 3rd with that draw. Hawthorn win, and they would need to win by, let's just see how many points they need to win by. They need to win by, they've got to go ahead of Collingwood, I would have thought, because you'd think Gold Coast win. So Hawthorn would need to win by 5 goals just about. But it'll depend on that Collingwood-Melbourne game as well. A lot is to play here, but this game I can't wait. Brisbane take on Hawthorn. Brisbane have reinstated their premiership credentials after last week's huge win over Freo. They were so good. Zach Bailey playing that midfield role in the absence of Lachie Neale was electric. You know, Logan Morris kicking 4 goals, continuing with strong season, and it was just sort of such a mature win for the Lions, and you could see it coming from a mile away. They're the sort of wins that you just see from Brisbane when their backs are against the wall. Like, who did they play the week before? They lost to Sydney, and we all thought they were done for top 4, but then they come back and respond like that. You just don't know with Brisbane. They've been inconsistent, but their best has been the best footy of any side this year, I would have thought, and they seemingly do seem to play better away from home this season. They haven't had the greatest record at home. They've only scored over 100 once, so maybe that gives Hawthorn a bit more of a chance, although they haven't really played much footy at the Gabba and haven't won there since 2016. So the Hawks haven't really played the Lions at the Gabba since they've been a good side. This one is a do-or-die clash. Hawthorn have just about locked in finals, I think. So it's not playing for a final spot, but playing for a home final, playing for maybe a top 4 spot, depending on other results. Do I think the Hawks have the personnel to match Brisbane and pinch them at home? I'm not sure. They probably don't want to be so reliant on Jack Gunston. He was so good last week against the D's, but maybe want a bit more of an even contributing spread in terms of the goal kickers, because he kicked 7, but that's not going to happen every week. He was very good, and I assume he's going to have a big game as well in this one. It says Hawthorn on 30 yet, but I haven't made my tip yet. I think this is going to be my pick for game of the round. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be one of those games where Hawthorn throw everything at him. Hawthorn will be in front at 3/4 time, but Brisbane pip him late and win it by 6 to kick him out of the 4 and bring themselves into 3rd. And my big call will be that the Lions win after trailing at 3/4 time. Final game on the Wednesday night. It's Gold Coast take on Essendon. There's a bit to play for here. As it stands, Suns are currently outside of the top 8. Freo in the 8, but you would think on paper in this game that the Suns do climb back into the 8. And who knows? They might be fighting for a top 4 spot. It might be percentage that matters. Normally when doing these tips, you do preview the last game, but we don't know the results of the Carlton, Essendon, or the Suns Port game. So the Suns, for all we know, could have gotten a big win. You know, they could have maybe been locking a top 4 spot with this win. But in this sort of simulation, it's the Suns that are playing for a top 8 spot. Essendon, you would think, probably just about locked at a bottom 4 spot at this rate. They'd be badly battered. They'd be bruised. They would have been wanting this season to end. Are they really going to try and fight so much in this game on a Wednesday night? I'm not too sure. Freo fans in this scenario would hope so, but you just can't see a world where the Bombers do win this game. Could they challenge them and make it sort of a game of percentage where if this is for the 4, could they potentially help sides like Collingwood or whatever to bring themselves into that top 4 spot? Potentially. For them to miss out in the 8, they're $34 odds to do so. It'd be absolutely monumental, and I just can't see it happening, even though the Suns have the tendency to do so. They've never made finals before in their tenure, but I just don't think I can see the Bombers, competing with the Suns for 4 quarters. They're not going to keep up. The Suns will eventually get the better of Essendon and might kick away and get a big win. And I think that is what's going to happen. They'll win this game by a lot. And I'm going to say the Suns get the win by 68 points, and that'll cement themselves a top 8 spot. So this is my predicted ladder if we're going off my predictions. Forgetting about the Collingwood-Melbourne game, because let's just say I did tip Melbourne to beat Collingwood, then this is what it would be. Adelaide, Geelong, Brisbane, GWS, Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Collingwood and Hawthorn. But for this, I think the Pies do win, to be honest. And that's what we're looking like for the ladder. So Adelaide first, Geelong second, Brisbane third, Collingwood fourth, Giants, Bulldogs, Suns, Hawks. The qualifying final got Adelaide, Collingwood, GWS, Hawthorn and NG. Dogs play the Suns, which would be a crazy game at the MCG. And then the Cats play the Lions for the qualifying final. That probably is most likely to end up happening. Let's quickly also review the tips on ESPN. So we're going the Blues in a bit of an upset. We're going the D's, but a forced upset. The upset that I think could actually happen is Port Adelaide. So this is my upset of the week. Adelaide win the game, you'd think. Geelong and Sydney. So they're all the expected results. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory tips there. I'm going to have to go the Giants, but I would like to see the Saints get up. The Dogs, unfortunately, this is the margin game, interestingly enough. We'll go 21 points. And Brisbane, and then the Gold Coast. 97%. I thought there'd be more than that. They're my tips for round 24. Sorry for pushing this out a little bit late. I was a bit sick. I should be fine now. So, yeah, thank you for being patient, and we'll see you soon in my next bit of content.